Miami and Texas A&M. I think this one can be really fun. First things first, Texas A&M had the opportunity to be the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs till they lost to Texas. They're 11-1 team. They didn't have to go to the SEC championship game. You could say they're in a really good spot because they get a home playoff first round. We know what happened with the teams that got the byes last year. No one got a win after having a bye week in the college football playoffs last year. On the flip side, everybody didn't want Miami in. Nobody wanted Miami. So now they're being seen as this team like, should we even think they can win a football game in College Station? Do we think that's even possible? Miami has a really explosive offense. Miami has a very good defensive line. Top 5 draft pick in the NFL draft upcoming is on the Hurricanes defensive line. Miami is one of those teams that you should not be sleeping on in the college football playoffs, whether you think Texas A&M is good or not.
Yeah, Miami did not get a lot of benefit of the doubt prior to basically not playing in a conference championship game. It took a week where neither them or Notre Dame played for them to count, basically, to take into consideration their head-to-head over the Fighting Irish. But now that they're in, they are definitely one of the best teams in the playoff, just looking at their resume. Look, Notre Dame, we talk about them like, did they deserve to be in? Did they not deserve to be in? Whether you think they were in or not, very good football team. And that was a very good football game at the beginning of the season. Obviously, South Florida was kind of on a tear. They made sure that they put an end to that. Florida, that one wasn't quite maybe what we thought it was preseason, but Florida stayed in there, and they took care of business the rest of the way as far as their wins and losses. This Miami team, very, very capable of hanging a few points on Texas A&M. But I guess I'm curious, are you sleeping on Texas A&M then? Are you so centralized on Miami that this Aggies team could be flying under your radar?
No, I don't know if I think that, because I think Mike Elko is a great coach, and I'm a big fan of their coordinators as well. I think Colin Klein's done a good job with the offense, so good that he's going to be the Kansas State head coach, obviously taking over the reins there. He's going to be the offensive coordinator for this game. I'm curious to see how Marcel Reed does, and I'm looking at both quarterbacks here. When you look at Carson Beck, who does have college football playoff experience, that's one thing to keep in mind. And then Marcel Reed, both of them have 25 touchdowns. Both of them have 10 interceptions. So it sounds like this is one of those games to see who is going to break first. And you rely on a Carson Beck who's been there before, but also in big games has had some moments where he turns the ball over, right? Or Marcel Reed, who is kind of being seen as this newer guy on the scene. Can he shine to the occasion? Can he rise to the occasion? I think they have great wide receivers on each side. Casey Concepcion, the junior out of Charlotte for Texas A&M, is insane. And I don't think there's a better freshman in the country than Malachi Toney. I mean, what he has done this year is insane. I mean, he might be the most electric player in college football, not just saying freshman, like period, just of all college football. He might be the most electric player in the entire country. 84 receptions. That's a Miami rookie, or that's a Miami record, not just rookie record, not just freshman record, a record for Miami. You're talking about all the receivers that has played for the Miami Hurricanes. 84 receptions is a record for that program. He does it his freshman year with Carson Beck at quarterback, almost 1,000 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. And then you talk about the defense for Miami. I don't think I'm sleeping on Texas A&M. I just think the more I look at this comparison between the two teams, I feel like the hype to A&M, because they got a 1-point win over Notre Dame, they lost to Texas, the fact that they didn't get a chance to go to the SEC championship game, I think they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder, don't get me wrong. But when you look at what Miami's bringing to the table, on paper, which I'm very well aware we do not play this game on paper, I really like what the Hurricanes are bringing to College Station.
We really do need to get together and play a game of paper football. Speaking of football on paper, I'm looking at this here. Miami, when you do this whole like game preview of stats versus this team versus that team, and you get to the college football playoff, both teams are going to be very good. This is no, Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State type of preview. So there is one statistic that really stands out like a sore thumb when you compare Miami to Texas A&M. The only negative statistic between both of these teams is Miami's offense has a negative EPA per rush compared to Texas A&M's defensive EPA per rush, which is about middle of the pack. And Miami's defense on the run side also not great, Could the run game be something that Texas A&M can kind of lean on? I don't think if Miami gets ahead, they're going to be able to really lean on the run and wind down the clock in this one. That's the only thing that I am seeing when you talk about on paper. When you talk about like vibes and this team's got this and that team's got that. Look, that's one of my favorite ways to break down games. I actually much prefer that. I think when we're dealing with humans that are playing football as opposed to robots on paper, it makes a lot more sense. But when we do look at the numbers, it's worth at least mentioning that Miami does struggle, at least relatively, with the rush. Where do you rank that as far as importance?
I think actually that might be the key to the game, because when I tried to compare Beck to Reed, I think they're pretty similar. I think that there's a good chance that Miami's got a better defense than A&M just based on skill. If you go by coaching, I think Elko might take Cristobal in that case, because you're talking about Beck with issues with his turnovers in big games. Well, Mario Cristobal's made some bad decisions in big games towards the end of games, right? If it comes down to the wire, who you trust in, Elko or Cristobal? I'm probably leaning towards Cristobal. But on the running game, right? You talk about that it's not very anything on each side, maybe leaning towards Texas A&M. There's another player in the Texas A&M cycle here, Le'Veon Moss, a senior running back. He's expected to return. There's some thought process that maybe he's been injured. He's been out for a while. He hasn't played since the Florida game back in October. There's talks that he might return. He was electric at the beginning of the season, had 139 yards against Auburn. He averages almost 6 yards per carry. If he comes back, that could be a huge jolt of energy for Texas A&M and could completely change the way that we look at this game. But it's still up in the air. We don't know. I think I'm leaning towards Miami. I think I'm leaning for Miami being an upset. Got to have, I think, at least one, right? I think Miami gets the upset in College Station. That's where I'm going for in this prediction.
This is the closest one that we've looked at so far. Obviously, if you haven't seen already, we've previewed all of the other this is a video. If you haven't seen it already, we've previewed all the other games. I think this is the closest one, so it's the hardest to pick. I am going to lean Texas A&M just because of what I've seen them do in the games that I've watched. Feel very confident about what I've actually seen. Like, this is my vibes, my eye test. I'm going to lean Aggies here, but that does not mean that I think Miami's like not capable of winning this game. If this comes down to it, both of these teams are capable of winning it. It might become who has the ball last.
Yeah, this one could be a shootout for me. You talked about maybe possibility high scoring between Bama and Oklahoma. I was leaning a little less on that side. I think this one could be more of a high scoring kind of thing, kind of like what we saw with A&M and Notre Dame. I think we could get in the 40s on both sides of this, or high 30s at least for both sides of this, and that wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Although I think Miami and Texas A&M both have pretty decent defenses, especially on the Miami's front side. I do think the explosiveness of guys like Malachi Toney and Carson Beck, who are able to do that, who can make the explosive plays, although they do have some turnover issues, both sides, I think can get wild. So I'm going to go Miami. I'm going to lean it here, but I think it's crazy. I'm talking like 41-38 final.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be a fun game too. Saturday kicking off this noon Eastern. Like, obviously we've got the Friday night game, but really getting into it on Saturday. That'd be a great way to start. I could see it. Absolutely could. I think I am going to stick with my Texas A&M. Let's give them a 7 point, just a traditional touchdown win.